Hi guys, I'm going to be going over your math packet now for week 4. I know a lot of us didn't have it yesterday. I hope we got it since then. If not, we're going to try and figure that out. So I'm just going to go over quickly what we went over on Monday for yesterday, and then I'll make another video for today, Tuesday. So we're just going to go 1 through 3. So we're going to be teaching about time now. So this is just a quick little thing you can read with your mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever. And it kind of gives you a rundown of how time works, how we read a clock. And then there's a little fun activity here. I'm not going to go over this too much. If you guys want to do it at home, that's great. It's fun. Gets you guys away from the computer for a little bit. It's something you can do together. We're going to start here. So when we're talking about time, we need to know that we have an hour hand and a minute hand. It takes 1 hour for the short hour hand, so this one here. And I'm going to do my best to write on this. I know it's a little small. Hour hand for H for hour. It takes 1 hour for the hour hand to move from one number to the next. So if it goes from 8 to 9, it's been 1 whole hour. We also know that this minute hand, the long one, it takes 1 minute for it to move from each tick mark to the next. So you see these tiny little tick marks in between. It takes 1 minute to get between those. It also takes 5 minutes to jump from one number to the next. So we look at this clock here. The clock has moved past, the hour hand has moved past 8, but not to the 9. So when it's in between two numbers like that, it's always going to be 1 before it. So because it's in between 8 and 9, the hour is going to be 8. And then we look at the minute hand is between 6 and 7. So here's a way to find out how many minutes past 8 it is. We can skip count by 5. So the 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then we can count the tick marks in between 31, 32. It looks like it stopped at. So it's going to be 8, 32. The reason we skip counted by 5s is because here if time it moves from these numbers here, we count 5 minutes. So between 12 and 1, it's 5 minutes. If the minute hand's on the 1, it's at the 5. 2 is 10, 3 is 15, 4 is 20, 5 is 25, and 6 is 30. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move down. So when the time is between midnight and noon, the clock shows AM. So from midnight to noon, it's AM. And then when it's past noon to midnight, it's PM. We're not going to worry about that too much, though. This says since Lily is reading a book after breakfast, the time is shown 8:32 AM. Sometimes the clock does not have numbers at all. Look at the clock below. It only has small marks and large marks. Explain how you can tell what time this clock shows. Okay, so a good way to tell how this, I'm going to have you guys think about this here. There's no numbers, but all clocks are built the same way. We know at the top there's a 12, and there's a 1, a 2, a 3. I know this is kind of small, it's hard to see. Whoops. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we can tell the hour hand is between our 6 and our 7. So when it's between a 6 and a 7, it's the one before it. It's a 6. So our hour's at 6. And then we're going to look at our minute hand here. Right here, it's between our 9 and our 10. Well, if we skip counted, let me use a different color real quick. We know that this is 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and then at the 9 it's 45. So then we can just count the tick marks in between 45, 46. It looks like it's at the 47. So it's going to be 6, 47. And when you explain this, just kind of do what I just did here. you labeled your hours and then you skip counted for your minutes. So just make sure you make an explanation in there. Okay. Alright, and then you're going to go down to here. So this says study the example problem showing how to skip count to tell time, then solve problems 1 through 6. So I'm going to do one here together. You're going to do these ones on your own. I might give you an example of each one. Okay. So this says the clock shows the time that Julian finished his guitar practice. What time did his practice end? So if he finished his guitar practice at this time, it ended at that time. That's language you're going to have to know here. Finished his guitar practice. That is the same time his practice ended. So if we're looking at this clock in between, the hour is past 4, but it isn't at the 5 yet. That means the hour is at the 4. The minute hand points to the 7. Let's skip count to figure out how many minutes 7 would count for. So you just label up here. Every time you see a number, you skip count. So we're at 15. So we're going to have to redo that real quick. We're at 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So we see that the hour is at 4 and the minute's at 35, so it's going to be 4:35. Okay, well, you guys know what that means. 4:35 is right here. Alright, so we're going to draw lines to match what the time shows. So this is actually really, we can make this really simple because all these hours are different here. We just have to find the hours that are correct. And then check our work to make sure there wasn't a mistake on the paper. So right here we can tell that our hour hand is pointing in between the 2 and the 3. If it's pointing in between the 2 and the 3, that means it's at 2. And the only numbers we see at 2 is 2:20. So let's just make sure the minutes say 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. So you're just going to match here. This one says the hour hand is between the 6 and the 5. It looks like it might be really, really close to the 6, but it doesn't matter. It's not quite to 6 yet. So the hour is actually at 5. And the only one here we can see with the hours at 5 is 5:50, so let's make sure this is at 50. So 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. 5:50. And then the same for this one. The hour hand's in between the 7 and the 8. That means it's the lower number, 7, and then it's pointing to the 9. So a good way to memorize and not have to skip count all this way is to know these 4 numbers here. The 12 is 0, the 3 is 15, the 6 is 30, and then the 9 is 45. So if you know those 4, you can, I don't know why I keep doing it like that. You can skip count from there when it's between those numbers. But because we know that it's 7:45, we're just going to make sure, yep, it would go to that last one there. And I do apologize for the computer making weird, like zooming in. I'm not doing that. I don't know why it's doing that, but just bear with me. Alright, so you guys are going to be responsible for doing these ones on your own. In fact, I'm going to want a picture of this when you're finished with it for a grade. I am going to show you an example here, just so you guys aren't doing it incorrectly. So here we can see it says write the time on the clock so that each pair of clocks show the same time, meaning this clock needs to match that clock. This is a digital clock, so that means it shows you the time like you see it on your phone or maybe on the TV or in the kitchen somewhere. This is called an analog clock, and these are the ones you normally see at school or the doctor's office. So we have our hour hand as a shorthand. And the biggest mistakes I see here is kids mixing up the hour and minute hand. The hour hand is the shorter hand. The minute hand is the longer one. So label them as you go through. So the hour hand's between the 11 and the 12. That means it's at the 11th hour. And then the minute's sitting on the 5. So if we know that 3 is 15, we can skip count from there. 15, 20, 25. It's 11:25. Alright. So that's how you are going to do these ones. So 3 and 4 is going to be on your own. This one, now you have to do the opposite. So they give you a digital clock that you need to make an analog clock. And this one's a little bit more difficult because you do have to draw those hour hands shorter than the minute hands. So we see that this is 6:15. So we need to draw our hour hand pointing towards the 6. Remember, it has to go a little bit past the 6. And then our minute hand has to hit the 15. So even I'm not too great at this. If you need to be dramatic about the minute hand, that's fine. But I can see that the minute hand is longer. So it's going to point at 6 and then 15. And then you'll do number 6 on your own. If you guys have any and when you guys are finished with this, please just send a picture to me through Class Dojo, through the phone number if you have my phone number, through the email if you have my email, whichever one we have decided to work out works best for us. Alright, if you guys have any questions, just text me, email me, Class Dojo me, I'm here, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our Zoom meeting at 12:30. Bye!